Voltaire was born Franche-Henri Arret in Paris into a bourgeois family. He studied law, but soon turned to writing, embracing wit and reason. Early satirical works led to imprisonment in the Bastille. Exile in England exposed him to constitutional monarchy and scientific progress, shaping his Enlightenment ideals. He became the embodiment of an Enlightenment philosopher, caustic, witty, and relentless. Voltaire wrote plays, historical works, philosophical tales, corresponded with monarchs, and fought for freedom of thought. Crush the infamous thing, he declared in his fight against fanaticism. His pen inspired fear in a powerful and love among freethinkers. He died surrounded by admirers, though the church refused him a funeral. Eugenie of Leuchtenberg was born into a Franco-German noble family as the daughter of Eugenie de Beauharnais and Princess Augusta of Bavaria. Raised between Munich and Milan, she received a refined education and early on was surrounded by both imperial legacy and Bavarian culture. Her marriage to Duke Constantine of Oldenburg brought her to the Russian court. In Russia, Eugenie was known as Evgenia Maximilianovna. She supported scholarly societies, engaged in charity work, and corresponded with cultural figures. She was regarded as one of the most educated women in her circle. In exile, the mind feeds on knowledge as the heart feeds on memory, she wrote in one of her letters. She died young, leaving a delicate trace in courtly history. Margaret of Austria was born into the powerful Habsburg dynasty as the daughter of Charles II of Austria and Maria Anna of Bavaria. Raised in a deeply Catholic court, she was prepared from childhood for dynastic marriage. At the age of 15, she became Queen of Spain by marrying Philip III, uniting two branches of the Habsburg family. At the Spanish court, Margaret quickly gained influence, becoming one of the few queens to intervene in politics. She supported the expulsion of the Moriscos, patronized the arts, and led a strict courtly life. "I am a queen, but above all a Christian," she said. Constant pregnancies weakened her health. Margaret died at 27, leaving behind an heir, the future King Philip IV. Johann Joseph Fox was born in Styria, in a modest peasant family. Early talent and church patronage led him to study music in Graz and Ingolstadt. He later moved to Vienna, where his mastery of counterpoint brought him rapid success and access to the imperial court. Fox became court Kapellmeister under Emperor Leopold I and later served Joseph I and Charles VI. His treatise Gradus et Parnassum became the foundational textbook of counterpoint. "To learn to compose music is to learn from Fox," said Haydn. He seldom wrote operas, but Fox's sacred works are still performed in Europe's cathedrals today. Elizabeth of York was born into the royal house of York as the eldest daughter of Edward IV. Her early life was shaped by the Wars of the Roses and shifting fortunes. She later married Henry VII, uniting the warring houses of York and Lancaster, and becoming the first Tudor queen. Elizabeth became a symbol of reconciliation after decades of civil strife. Her marriage to Henry VII strengthened the legitimacy of the new dynasty, and the birth of heirs secured her position. The crown on her head was lighter than the burden she bore in her heart. Despite her modesty, she played a vital role in stabilizing the court and sustaining peace. Historians praise her piety, her deep affection for her children, and her rare sense of dignity. Her death in childbirth was mourned across the nation. Londoners wept for the good queen, who had brought calm after the storm. Christina of Denmark was born into the powerful house of Oldenburg. As a niece of Emperor Charles V, she was a valuable political pawn from childhood. Widowed young after her marriage to the Duke of Milan, she soon became one of the most sought-after brides in Europe. Even Henry VIII considered her as a potential wife. Yet Christina became known not as someone's wife, but as a smart and independent political figure. She rejected Henry VIII's proposal, saying, "If I had two heads, I might consider marrying him," thus escaping the fate of his other wives. Later, she governed the Duchy of Lorraine on behalf of her son, showing firmness and diplomacy. Christina was respected for her wit, foresight, and pan-European vision. She remained true to herself in an age when women rarely could. Francis I of the Two Sicilies was born in Naples as the son of Ferdinand I and Maria Carolina of Austria. Raised during turbulent revolutionary times, he witnessed the collapse and restoration of monarchies. As crown prince, he often stood in the shadow of his powerful parents, especially his mother, the daughter of Maria Theresa. As king, Francis I followed a cautious policy of absolutism, partly from personal indecisiveness and partly to preserve stability. He surrounded himself with courtiers and favorites, showing more interest in theater and hunting than in reforms. His reign was called uneventful, yet it offered respite after the storms of the Napoleonic era. To be a king means knowing how not to get in the way of the storm, people said of his rule. Though not a towering figure, Francis ensured dynastic continuity and laid the groundwork for change. Sophia of the Palatinate was the daughter of Frederick V, the Winter King of Bohemia, and the granddaughter of Mary Stuart. Raised in the Netherlands in an atmosphere of philosophy and art, her brother Charles Louis regained the Palatinate, while Sophia married Elector Ernest Augustus of Hanover, founding a new royal dynasty. Sophia of the Palatinate became known as a model of intelligence and insight. Her letters and memoirs read like a chronicle of 17th century Europe. She was close to Leibniz, engaging in deep discussions on philosophy and politics. Sophia was officially named heir to the British throne to ensure Protestant succession, but she died just 2 months before her son's coronation, the future George I. "A crown was destined for me, but not the throne," she said with irony. Henrietta Godolphin was the eldest daughter of Sarah Churchill and John, Duke of Marlborough, born into a glittering aristocratic family close to the royal court. Her mother was Queen Anne's favorite, and Henrietta grew up surrounded by power and intrigue. After her father's death, Henrietta inherited the duchy, a rare event for a woman of that time. She became head of the Churchill family and wife of politician Francis Godolphin. At court, the Tories and Whigs vied for power, and Henrietta, like her mother, retained influence even as their clan lost ground. Rumors said she was more astute than her husband and brothers. It's not the title that gives a woman strength, but the skill to wield it, she was said to have remarked. Josephine de Beauharnais was born on the island of Martinique to a family of Creole aristocrats, raised among tropical gardens and European customs. At 16, she was married off to Viscount Beauharnais and found herself in the whirlwind of revolutionary France. After her husband's execution, Josephine narrowly escaped the guillotine. Her beauty, charm, and poise won her access to high society. Soon she met Napoleon Bonaparte and became his wife, the first Empress of France. Though they had no children together, he called her his destiny. She popularized roses and exotic fashion, and her gardens at Malmaison became a symbol of refinement. "I lost the crown, but kept the emperor's heart," she said. Margaret Pole was born into the noble house of Plantagenet and was the niece of kings Edward IV and Richard III. Raised at court, she married Sir Richard Pole and became a widow early. Despite difficult years, she retained influence and the title of Countess of Salisbury. Margaret Pole was one of the few noblewomen who openly opposed Henry VIII. She remained loyal to the Catholic faith and her friend Catherine of Aragon. When her son, Cardinal Reginald Pole, spoke against the king, Henry's wrath struck the whole family. Margaret was imprisoned in the Tower and executed without trial. "I am not guilty, and my death is the king's revenge," she whispered before her final breath. Louis-Philippe de Ségur was born into an old aristocratic family and spent his youth at court. He was a soldier, diplomat, and writer, serving in France and abroad, including as Louis XVI's ambassador to Russia. His life reflects the shift from the Ancien regime to the revolutionary era. Ségur left vivid memoirs of politics, war, and aristocratic life. His diplomatic mission to St. Petersburg coincided with Catherine II's reforms, and during the Revolution, he supported moderate ideas. After Napoleon, he returned to writing, capturing a vanished world. "The world fades into smoke, and I try to keep its shadows on paper," he confessed. He died at 80 as a man of two eras, the age of enlightenment and the time of upheaval. Franz Joseph Haydn was born in Austria to a poor peasant family. He was a choir boy, violinist, and music teacher, serving for many years at the Esterhazy court. His rise to fame was slow but steady. He became one of the most respected composers of his time. Haydn is considered the father of the symphony and the string quartet. His music combined formal rigor with vitality, and his innovative ideas laid the foundation of the Viennese classical style. He composed recognizable melodies and inspired Mozart, while the young Beethoven called him a teacher. Despite international fame, Haydn remained humble, diligent, and deeply religious. "I was cut off from the world, and so I was forced to be original," he joked about his years at the Esterhazy court. His work became a symbol of harmony, resilience, and Enlightenment spirit. Baldassare Castiglione was born into an aristocratic family in Mantua. He was raised at court, received a humanist education, and served as a diplomat at the court of the Duke of Urbino. His manners, eloquence, and taste made him the ideal Renaissance courtier. The author of the famous book of the Courtier, Castiglione set the tone for an entire era, shaping the model of the Renaissance gentleman noble, educated, moderate, and witty. His dialogue-style treatise became a must-read for European nobility and even influenced court customs. He taught that honor should be blended with elegance and strength with courtesy. A friend of Raphael, who is believed to have painted his portrait, he later became papal nuncio in Spain, leaving a deep impression as a diplomat. He remained true to humanist ideals until his death, believing that true nobility lies in inner harmony. True greatness lies in calmness that never loses its dignity. Joao V of Portugal was the son of King Pedro II and Queen Maria Sophia of Bavaria. Was raised in the spirit of absolutism and religious piety. His youth coincided with the height of the empire, when gold from Brazil made Portugal one of the richest countries in Europe. He ruled for nearly half a century, turning Portugal into one of the most lavish monarchies in Europe. Wealth from overseas colonies funded monasteries, libraries, academies, and the majestic Mafra Palace. He was called the Portuguese Louis XIV for his passion for ceremony and architecture. He supported science, the arts, and the clergy, corresponded with the Pope, and received the rare title of Most Faithful Majesty. His influence reached not only Lisbon, but also the Vatican. The greatness of a monarch, he believed, begins with the strength of his faith. Joao V of Portugal was the son of King Pedro II and Queen Maria Sophia of Bavaria. Was raised in the spirit of absolutism and religious piety. His youth coincided with the height of the empire, when gold from Brazil made Portugal one of the richest countries in Europe. He ruled for nearly half a century, turning Portugal into one of the most lavish monarchies in Europe. Wealth from overseas colonies funded monasteries, libraries, academies, and the majestic Mafra Palace. He was called the Portuguese Louis XIV for his passion for ceremony and architecture. He supported science, the arts, and the clergy, corresponded with the Pope, and received the rare title of Most Faithful Majesty. His influence reached not only Lisbon, but also the Vatican. The greatness of a monarch, he believed, begins with the strength of his faith. Isabella d'Este was born into the family of the Marquis of Ferrara. From an early age, she showed a brilliant mind and a love for the arts. Educated by the best teachers, she spoke several languages and participated in court life from a young age, preparing for her role as the wife of the ruler of Mantua. Isabella d'Este became one of the most influential women of the Italian Renaissance. Her court in Mantua was renowned as a center of art and music. She patronized Titian, Leonardo da Vinci, and other great masters. She was considered a model of female intellect, beauty, and taste. Rumors circulated that she secretly commissioned portraits to immortalize her youth. She was called the First Lady of the World for her brilliant mind and unmatched charm. Even in old age, she continued to set trends and influence the culture of her era. Jacques of Savoy, Duke of Nemours, was born into the noble house of Savoy. From childhood, he was raised as a knight, learning the art of war, eloquence, and courtly manners. In his youth, he accompanied his father on diplomatic missions and military campaigns, preparing for his own path at court. Jacques of Savoy is remembered as a prominent commander during the French Wars of Religion. He led Catholic forces against the Huguenots, showing bravery and determination. Despite the brutality of the battles, he was respected as a noble enemy. It is known that he dreamed of uniting the nobility for peace, but politics and betrayals shattered his hopes. He was called the last knight of old France for his loyalty to honor and tradition. Even his enemies praised his nobility on the battlefield. Agnès Sorel was born into a modest noble family in northern France. She entered court early as a lady-in-waiting, where her beauty and sharp mind quickly drew attention. She received an excellent education for a woman of her time, mastering conversation, dance, and the art of presence at receptions. Agnès Sorel went down in history as the official mistress of King Charles VII, becoming the first to openly hold this title. Her influence on court politics and fashion was immense. She introduced daring low-cut dresses, setting a new style for the era. Rumors said her beauty inspired the king's military victories, while enemies suspected her of witchcraft. She was called the Lady with the Swan for her elegance and mystery, and her early death sparked legends of poison and court intrigues. Jean Fouquet's portrait of her as the Madonna became a symbol of beauty and boldness of her time. Atahualpa was born in Quito, the son of Emperor Huayna Capac and a concubine. He spent his childhood in the northern part of the empire, learning warfare and governance. From an early age, he showed a strong character, earning his father's trust and being appointed governor of Quito. Atahualpa went down in history as the last independent ruler of the Incas. After Huayna Capac's death, he fought a bloody civil war against his brother Huáscar, ultimately seizing Cusco. Yet his triumph was short-lived. He was soon captured by the Spaniards under Francisco Pizarro. His promise to fill a room with gold as ransom became legendary, but even after fulfilling it, the Spaniards executed him. Atahualpa's death marked the fall of the Inca Empire and the start of colonial rule. Legends say his spirit still searches for a way home to the lost cities of gold. Bess of Hardwick was born in Derbyshire into a modest gentry family. Her early life was shaped by ambition and strategic marriages, gradually raising her status at the Tudor court. Even as a young girl, she stood out for her intelligence and determination. Bess of Hardwick became known as one of the most influential women of Elizabethan England. 4 marriages made her incredibly wealthy and powerful, and the castles she built, including Hardwick Hall, are impressive in their grandeur. She was often called a self-made woman, able to maintain independence and influence at court. It was said that even Queen Elizabeth feared her ambitions. Bess left behind not only a legacy in stone, but also the legend of a woman who rose from the provinces to the heights of power. Erasmus of Rotterdam was born in Rotterdam as the illegitimate son of a priest and a physician's daughter. His early years were marked by strict schooling in monastic settings, laying the foundation for his deep scholarly pursuits and humanist ideals. Erasmus of Rotterdam became a symbol of Northern humanism, known for works advocating reason and criticizing superstition. His praise of folly brought fame across Europe. It was said his pen was sharper than a sword, exposing falsehood with a single sentence. Erasmus sought renewal of faith, avoiding extremes. He was friends with Thomas More, inspired scholars, and left a rich literary legacy. In Holbein's portrait, his face reflects irony and weariness. Catherine of Aragon, the youngest daughter of Ferdinand, the second of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile, was raised from an early age to be a queen. She was betrothed to Arthur, Prince of Wales, and after his death married his brother Henry VIII, becoming Queen of England. Catherine of Aragon went down in history as Henry VIII's first wife and a symbol of resilience. Her marriage was tested when the king sought divorce, desiring a male heir. It was said her patience was queenly and her dignity unbreakable. Catherine refused to accept the annulment and considered herself the true queen until the end. Her support of the Catholic faith inspired many. In portraits, she appears with a sorrowful gaze, reflecting the weight of her fate. Frans van Mieris the Elder was born in Leiden into a family of artists. He studied under Gerard Dew and quickly gained fame for his genre paintings, where refinement and humor combined in depictions of everyday life. Frans van Mieris was considered one of the finest Dutch little masters of intimate painting. His works were admired for their exquisite details and soft light. It was said he painted like a jeweler, but with a brush, not a chisel. Mieris's paintings were loved by collectors across Europe and commissioned by royal courts. Despite his success, he remained loyal to Leiden, working in his hometown surrounded by friends and pupils. His canvases still amaze with their attention to the smallest details, creating an illusion of life frozen in a moment.